Hello, welcome back to the T-Rated podcast, where we're going to have conversation on growth, life, and TS. I have a very special guest with me today. Do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi guys, my name's Stacy Cay.
Oh yeah, we're doing it's ASMR.
Yeah, this is how I talk now. This just is kind of my thing.
This is who she is, the person and a comedian.
Maybe I should. Okay, is this register good? Okay, all right. I'm getting into ASMR, so I need to get good at this. So we're practicing.
Okay, so Miss Stacy Cay, tell me and the viewers a little bit about yourself.
So I am a comedian and a model. I live in Kansas City now. I am from Arkansas, which is where I was born and raised, and I don't live there anymore because why would I? That's pretty much the whole thing about me, I guess. I like basketball a lot. That's cool. Do you like basketball?
No.
Okay, so we don't really have anything in common.
I've liked basketball players in the past.
Oh, me too. Okay,
That's
you said
about
that you did it. You did mention previously that you had dated some particular
Dating
athletes.
is a stretch.
Okay, you hung out with them a little
Yeah.
bit, and then you said they didn't sign NDAs, and I was
No.
wondering if you wanted to mention who it was,
I wanted to
and
bring
also
any
what their
names
numbers
up.
are.
No. No, because their check's cleared. So we will not be mentioning any names like that, even though I did not sign NDAs. I did say that earlier. in
Okay,
one of
so
our
Ben Simmons, right?
off-cameras Conversations, not Ben Simmons. In
Okay.
one of our off-camera conversations, how a lot of NBA, NFL players do not really get you to sign those. They also don't want you to wear condoms, but that's a different conversation. We're here to talk about you. So I want to hear a little bit of your transition story because I know you shared some of it recently in a video you actually sent me. I want to hear you talk a little bit more about that and what that looked like for you.
Okay, so as a transsexual race in Arkansas, I had a horrible time. My family knew I was a girl like the whole time. Like we have videos of me like wearing dresses and shit. Like that's just I don't know. I did that stuff. And then they just were like, you need to stop doing that. Like you got to start being like a man or whatever. And I never really felt like it. So got through the puberty, and then like whenever testosterone hit, I got like real depressed and shit, and like put absolutely no effort into my appearance or anything like that. And I got sent to a conversion camp because I would like kind of wear my sister's clothes every now and then, and they caught me.
What was the conversion camp like?
So it was in Indiana, and this was like a light conversion camp. So it wasn't like I wasn't getting physically abused. It was in Indiana because that's
Where they have those kind of things?
yeah, and it was called Sons of Light. It was like a Bible thing, Sons of Light, which right off the bat, that's like one of the faggiest names you could come up with.
It's transphobic already, really.
So yeah, and then we just studied the Bible for like 13 hours a day, and at least one of those hours was dedicated to confessing sexual sins. And I wasn't actually into guys at the time. So like everybody else was gay, all right, at this camp, and I didn't realize that. Like I didn't realize I was at a conversion camp. But during all the confessions and stuff, they all started confessing like a bunch of like really gay stuff. And I was like, whoa, okay, why is everyone...
Can you give us an example of one of the stories that you heard? If you can recollect it.
One of the stories that I heard?
Yeah.
Oh,
From the Christian Gay.
no, they would be vague. They'd be really vague with their confessions.
Like what?
Like, just that they've had homosexual thoughts and that, they, all that kind of stuff, but they're praying and it'll go away or whatever. And
Oh, so it wasn't like a graphic imagery.
No, not
Oh,
really.
okay.
That was more discouraged. They didn't want to, get hard during a prayer.
Because that's all I imagine is like a group of wannabe Christian homosexuals sitting around explaining how they had a vivid daydream of 13-inch dicks.
Yeah, it wasn't so much of that, but I mean, honestly, it kind of they like you could see them thinking that in their
Yeah.
brains, like they were going through it, and they were probably getting all boned up, But
Was anybody having sex with each other then?
well, there was a lot of studies in the woods.
Oh,
They were all like trying to set up like Bible studies and stuff
after our
and
Bible
we were
studies?
already doing like 13 hours. Like the curriculum was 13 hours in class, which is crazy amount of Bible stuff. And they were still wanting to do like extra studies or whatever.
That is
And
absurd to me.
yeah, people would ask me on that. I'm like, "Are you crazy?" No, I'm gonna like throw footballs at people or something like that.
Do you know like a lot of Bible verses now?
Well, not from that, but I do. No, I'm like an expert on the Bible actually, and American Christianity, the different sects of it and stuff like that. Yeah, I guess
So
so.
conversion therapy didn't go well.
Well, it
weren't
went
actually
really
gay.
well. Right, I was the only actual woman at that camp. It's really funny being sent to that with just a bunch of boys, like, let's put all the gay boys together,
And then here you are, not even liking guys,
Right.
but still in a conversion therapy camp. So when did you start your actual transition?
So in college is whenever I kind of came out to my girlfriend that like I didn't know I was trans. I said I was a crossdresser
Mm-hmm.
because I thought it was arrogant to say I was trans. I thought that I needed like all these things to say that. So she freaked out a little bit, and then I started thinking about like hormones and things like that pretty quickly. I didn't like cross dress like people didn't know me as a cross dresser. It was like kind of secret or whatever, Or I'd go to another city when I'd do it. But then I started. She dumped me, of course, because that's usually what happens. And I was like, I don't got any reason to stop doing hormones, to not do hormones. So when I got I qualified for Medicaid in Arkansas, thanks Obama, and I got my hormones covered, and then my parents immediately disowned me when they found out. They found out because they saw my tits in church.
They saw your tits in church.
Mm-hmm. I was wearing a sweater, and my dad texted me after church. Oh, I can't remember the exact phrasing, but it was basically like, "Do you have boobs?"
What did you say?
Have you been taking estrogen? And I was like, yeah. And then he had a meltdown, and that was like the last time he talked to me. That was cool.
Damn.
Yeah, he was checking me out during church. Isn't that weird?
So how do you feel like your backstory in that way, and this, just your transness in general, affect your career now in comedy?
It's the reason I got into it in the first place. So like, I lost everything. Like I feel like I've already died, right? Right? What I am now is like my after whatever. I'm like a ghost. Okay. So I got like nothing else to do besides, go on the stage and just talk to people. Right? So that's what I started doing, and I just like it's like my like one outlet to talk. I didn't have any friends or anything because I like lost all my friends and stuff. And so I would just get on stage and do that, and that way, people could relate to me and things like that through it. And I don't think that if I had not been like disowned and stuff, that I would have gotten into comedy. It's not exactly an occupation for healthy, well-adjusted people.
Do you feel like what you went through in life had a big impact on how your comedy looks and shows up now?
Yeah, I mean, all of my comedy and stuff I work on is through talking about like my perspective from that angle. So
What do you think about people who say trans people are too sensitive when it comes to comedy
yeah.
about us?
No, I think that other people are too sensitive. Like we aren't allowed. Our humor is too triggering for cis people. Like cis people will hear us talking to each other and be like, "Oh, holy shit," you know.
I
Uh,
think,
and we have to hide that from other
uh,
people, so they think that we're all sensitive because you can whine all you want and you won't get taken down from social media. Like your comment won't get deleted because you weren't using any slurs. You
yeah,
know, you were just being annoying. So those comments stay up, but like the aggressive shit, like the shit we say, we really have to like rein it in whenever cis people are hearing it. So
I can agree with that 1,000%. Because there's, um, I've had a conversation several times about the way in which trans people kind of will go in on each other, or the jokes we can make towards each other always land a little bit differently and come across a little bit harsh. Like, for example, I was on Twitter and I had this bisexual female who wanted to cancel me and call me transphobic, which I'm assuming she did call me transphobic. So I'm assuming maybe she didn't see like the full extent of my profile. But I reposted something that was about Caitlyn Jenner or something she said, and my comment I felt like was a very transsexual comment
mm,
because I said that she needed to take more estrogen to kill the white man that was still living inside of her
I saw that.
and
That was
impacting
pretty
her
funny.
viewpoints. Yeah. But it was funny because it was a cis bisexual female who was telling me that my comment about that was transphobic. But I felt like that was very much a transsexual comedy and read that I was giving.
Hmm.
So I can agree with what you say. A lot of I wish we could, in general, trans people could kind of joke more about our experiences and the way we view ourselves and other people view us without it leading to transphobia.
Yeah, like we have to explain ourselves constantly. Like if we make a joke on the internet, these people expect us to work through the entire nuances of what we just said instead of just letting us say the joke and moving on, you know?
Mhm.
We have to explain like, oh, I'm transgender and I'm not saying that these people are not valid, but I am saying that this, and you know, you have to do all of
Uh-huh.
that. You can't just say just a funny little tweet. Like cis people can just say a funny little tweet that's ridiculous, and they're just allowed to do that. But like trans people, like we say a ridiculous tweet and then we have to like thoroughly explain that we are joking, and like we have to
Uh-huh.
explain the joke for everybody, or otherwise they get mad at us.
I was gonna say, because I've seen a few times you've gotten in
Yeah,
trouble on Twitter,
they hate
um,
me, man.
for making comments about like transgender people or like non-binary people
Yeah,
specifically, and you kind of gotten beat up, for lack of a better term, for
they all
it.
calling me a trans med. It's crazy. Like
Do you
I
think there's truth to that? Let's set
no
the record straight.
no, I just think that um look, listen, me criticizing your haircut does not mean that I'm a trans medicalist, all right? Not that I've criticized anybody's haircut ever. Everybody's haircut is equal and valid. But you know, it's just I've no. One time I made a tweet. I was angry at one person in particular who is like non-binary, and they don't have it. They don't take any hormones. They don't need any of that. They still have parents, you know, stuff like that. And they talking about themselves as if they're the authority on all gender oppression, I guess.
Hmm.
And I was frustrated with that. And I made a tweet out about that person, and people took it as a broad statement about my feelings on non-binary people. And I deleted it within 24 hours. Like I
Uh-huh.
hadn't realized it was being taken that way, and I realized it was, and I deleted it and posted an apology. But they don't care. They just still um, they still circulate that today. It's kind of crazy.
What was the comment? Did you want to repeat it?
Good. I deleted it for a reason. Listen, I wrote it. I wrote it whenever I was. It was like early Sunday morning, like whatever. And then I woke up and I saw Nazis goose stepping at the Capitol. Do you remember that? There was like a Nazi rally outside the Capitol.
No. Sounds like a Tuesday.
like actual Nazis goose stepping, and I was upset about that, and because you know, I see it as you know, I knew they were going to pass all this transphobic shit like years ago. I saw it. It was very obvious, especially if you live in the red states where they're just pushing all this kind of stuff, because they say on the radio that they want to kill us like on a regular basis. So it was no surprise to me, and I was dealing with that, and I don't think the rest of the world realized how fucked trans people are legislatively back then. So they were a lot like harder on me for using what's the word, like fear-mongering language is what they said it was, because the laws hadn't started being passed yet. But
I think there's a little nuance, especially when it comes down to legislation, in regards to how trans people and or like trans men and trans women and trans masc and trans femme people show up in the world, compared to people who are non-binary, but their experience and the way they navigate through the world and the way other people see them reads differently than the way
it does.
How we show up.
The way we experience transphobia, it's different from everybody, you know, and it's not crazy to point that out. I don't think it's invalidating of anyone, and it's not. No. It's not an oppression ranking. It's just sometimes you'll hear somebody saying some stuff, and it's like, okay, well, I don't know if you know everything about that, and it's not crazy to say stuff like that.
To their point, I can understand it from, if you do not see yourself as a woman, you see yourself as being non-binary in between the both, and you have to navigate the world in the sense of where everyone still assumes you are a woman, then I can understand how that can be frustrating, because that can be similar to like the idea of like, if you see yourself as a woman, but other people don't see yourself as a woman, then you don't get to navigate the world in your womanhood. Like in regards to like, if you're not quote unquote as passable. And so if you're not quote unquote passable as non-binary, to them, they're thinking it is like they relate to it in the sense of other people aren't seeing how they identify themselves. And so I feel like a lot of times they can relate to it in that aspect. But at the same time, people are still giving them the basic privilege of being able to walk through the world and be treated, quote unquote, as a woman or quote unquote as a man, because it's still going to, you're still going to get treated more as either a man or a woman as opposed to getting treated like an id, which is what typically happens with like trans women or trans men who aren't as passable. Okay, we had to take a small little break, but we are back. I think we were talking a little bit about legislation earlier and laws. So you actually recently testified in Missouri against some anti-trans bills. Tell us a little bit about that and your experience in doing it.
It was bad. 2 thumbs down, 0 stars. We had to, so like Missouri, both of the coolest cities in Missouri are on the edges and they're being cut off in the middle. So St. Louis and Kansas City are like on the edges of that, but they're both much nicer cities. Instead, we got to drive to Jefferson City, which is in the middle of the state and is a shithole. So we did that, and you get up there, and it's just the people bringing these bills forward are like the dumbest people I've ever heard of in my life. Like, they don't have a future in politics for sure. Like, it's like the party sent their stupidest people to do this, because like they can't even like pronounce shit right. Like they got their dick accent and all that. I just think that boys shouldn't be playing with girls. Like that's and they just kept repeating that over and over and over. And then one of the politicians, Carrie Engel, I'd never seen her before. But she represents like Lee's Summit, which is like a suburb of Kansas City in the Missouri side, and she's the party whip. She became at 38. She became the party whip, which is pretty crazy. Like to be that, you know what the whip is, right?
No.
Okay, so I'm autistic about politics. All right.
Okay.
The whip in each party, it's their job to make sure that everybody votes how they're supposed to
Okay.
in the party. So they go around and they do whatever they need to do to make these people vote right. Have you ever seen House of Cards?
No again.
Okay, he's a whip in that, and it's like he does like blackmail and all that kind of stuff to get people to act right. Not saying Carrie Engel does that, anyways, but she became the whip, and which is pretty crazy. But she was roasting the fuck out of these guys for bringing this stuff in, like bringing up all of the like perfect points of response. Like she would inquire, like she'd ask them questions because all the representatives on the committee get to do that to the person bringing the bill forward. And I mean, her first question was like, "Do you know what intersex is? Like, do you know what that is? Do you know intersex people exist?" And they were like, "I've never heard of that." Like they just pretended like they had never heard of intersex, even though they did the same thing last year. And she did the same thing to them again.
They had a year. To learn
they just
about
didn't
it.
look it up, and they just brought these bills forward and stuff. And as soon as they were done, they just walked out, and then there was like hours of testimony afterwards, and they didn't care because they did their shit and left. There was like no conservatives in the committee at all. Like there was like a few Karens in there. They all look the same. It's like they're all printed out. So like, you know how like a mold will have like 4 different variations of the whatever, and then you just copy. There was like 4 different types of women there close to each other and just repeated. Like that's all who showed up. And, you know, none of them could fix their hair. It was pathetic. At the Capitol talking about this shit like that, and you couldn't even like wash your hair properly. But they were just talking about like how it's against the Bible and all that kind of stuff.
No, they're more focused on boys.
Say what?
They're more focused on boys not playing with girls.
Yeah, they're very into that, and they explicitly like say we don't care if girls want to play with boys. That's fine. Like they say the laws explicitly state that that's fine.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
So trans men can do what they want to in Missouri, but trans women can't. Okay,
pretty much. Yeah, it's usually how it goes.
So what all out of the 8 bills? What all were they over?
So some of them were very similar, but the three categories were banning trans people from sports, banning HRT for people under the age of 18, and banning trans people from performing in anything. They were drag bills, but the way they were defined includes trans women in that, and that extends. They call it like putrient interest, which is like strip club, right? So they consider a trans person being in public the same as what a stripper is doing. So they'll call you like a sex offender. They want to make us all sex offenders and send us to prison for being in public and talking. So like if you're a teacher or if you like do karaoke, like that, like any of that stuff would be like like 5 years in prison.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So like any type of performance at all.
Yeah.
So you would technically be a sex offender.
I would quit doing shows in Missouri. I tell you what, I do a lot of shows in Missouri right now because that's Kansas City. The Missouri side is kind of the cool part, and then the Kansas side is where all the old people live, and that's where I live. I didn't know that when I was moving there, but that's how it is. And I would have to just start performing on the Kansas side with all the not cool venues. But
all the old people.
I'll make it work. Well, we'll make people drive across the state and tell them they're transphobic if they don't, you know?
That works. Do you have, because I watched your actual speech that you gave, which was really good, by the way.
Thank you.
That you sent me, of course. Were there any other key points from that speech that you gave that you want to reiterate now, too?
I don't know, they're trying to ban trans kids from getting hormones, even when like the doctors, therapists, parents, and the kid like all agree like we want to do puberty blockers. All right, they're trying to ban puberty blockers. And dude, that fucking sucks. Like,
do you think that becomes a slippery slope, or do you not realize? Do you think that most people do not realize how slippery of a slope that can become when the government starts having a say-so of what goes on between you and your doctors?
They don't even care though. They've already done that with abortion. You know, they've repealed abortion, and they say that the doctors can, you know, rat onto you to the cops. Like, they've now made doctors to where they have to enforce the law like that, and that's kind of a weird position to put doctors in. But just like the fact that they wanna ban us from sports because they say we have an unfair advantage because we went through puberty, like male puberty, but then they also want to ban us from avoiding male puberty. So it's like, you know, die is what they want you to do. And it's so blatantly evil. And they know it. These people introducing this stuff, they know, they don't really believe it. Like, they are arguing from bad faith, and they know that their stuff's not making sense. They know they're just kind of doing a little song and dance because their boss told them to go out there and they got to push this legislation. And you can see it in their eyes, because I sat in the committee for like it was like all day, from like 4 till like midnight. And I was just watching the Republican legislators who, not the people who brought the bill, but the people on the committee who were going to vote to put it through, you know. And they have to sit there and listen to everybody talking the whole time. And like, you can just like see on their faces, like, they're just like bored. Like, they don't care about this at all. They don't like that they have to do this. They just know that, like, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to ban trans people. I'm supposed to vote to ban trans people from sports because it's popular in the party right now. And some of them seem like, I'm sure they're not nice people, but just like it's like they know it's like not very good. Like, it's kind of mean to do. And they think it's like justified, or that they're, you know, they're just going about their day. They're just doing their job. And they're just the stares. Like, they're just like detached, and it's the worst. And then the people who, they're so dumb. Like I said,
are you not scared that cis men are going to go out here and trans themselves for 2 to 3 years just so they can win an Olympic gold medal?
Good luck. All right.
Are you not scared that they're going to cissify themselves for a medal? Because that's the craziest part to me when people start talking about trans women in sports, because they push it. Because the same way with the like bathroom style bills, is the idea that cis men are going to go through and do all these things in order to be able to gain some kind of presence in a woman's space, and the idea that
we have to
the idea y'all think that most men, like in America, the way that like the patriarchy is set up,
you remember,
it's gonna go out here and turn themselves into a woman for 2 years just in order to get like a trophy and maybe like a 10,000. Because y'all already know we don't pay female sports players any money at all anyway. So you're really only doing it for like the glory of getting a gold medal.
And like, you don't need, men can get into female spaces, all right? Like, they don't need to dress up.
You're just a predator.
Trump walks into, like, all of his pageants and stuff. He would just walk into the dressing rooms on a regular basis. Like, he's filmed doing this. Like, if you have money and you just do things, like he said.
But they had like a bill that's going to keep. The reality is, if you're walking into a women's restroom to do something bad, you're already going to be doing something bad, regardless of what the trans aspect. If trans women can go piss in a bathroom, that's not going to like stop or start men who are predators going into women's bathrooms to begin with.
And they don't care at all about this. Like, you can bring up all these points and they don't, it doesn't matter. That's not the point. The point is like, they're playing, they're cheering for their team. And it's like, you know, no trannies. Like, that's just what they're doing. And they
Me
Like
too.
they would admit there's only 5 trans athletes in the entire state of Missouri, and they're doing this legislation to ban those people from playing sports, and they don't even know who they are.
We're gonna overthrow the entire sports of Missouri.
Yeah. They would ask them like, "So you think this is a problem that like needs to be fixed? Like, but is there something wrong right now? Like, have you seen any trans people win anything?" And they were just like, "No, but like we got to be prepared, you know.
Preventative
We got to
measures.
get ahead of this." Is like what they're saying.
One of you sissies might come along
Yeah.
and whoop somebody's ass.
Oh, I don't. I'm gonna have to go back. They're gonna keep doing this. And what they did is they scheduled it. They only gave us 25 hours notice to know that the hearing was happening. So all the advocates had to be like, "Hey guys, we got to go to this thing. We got to go talk and film and all that," because the media comes and covers it, and like there's like trans advocates watching it and pushing the stuff out, letting everybody know that this is happening. And I'm pretty sure that they scheduled it there because they knew that there was going to be a snowstorm that night, and they were trying to keep people home because they're trying to ban drag in the entire state of Missouri. Like, and that's insane. There's like some pretty big drag bars in Missouri, and I can't imagine it being like that. And a lot of drag queens showed up. It was crazy. We outnumbered the supporting at least 10-1. Well, and then one of their key witness, they flew in from. Apparently, she has property in Florida, but she do not sound like a Floridian. She said, I heard when she first started talking, like I was not really paying attention, and then I heard her say "a boot," like about, you know, and like my head popped up, and I was like, "Canadian detected, like what are you doing here? Does she even go here?"
She even go here?
And no, her accent was crazy. It's definitely not American. And she's over here pretending to like be fighting for America to save our kids or whatever in Missouri. Like this is like she's just a paid operative. That's all of them were. They were all paid operatives. And then all the trans people were like, "Yeah, my son needs his medicine." You know, like their son's with them. The son is like testifying. And it's like, "I need my fucking testosterone, dude," you know? And they just had to sit there and listen to that. They had there was this one, there was this Jewish family, and the kid was wearing a rainbow yarmulke. Pretty cool. He's a trans kid. I think he's about like 10. And they testified several times. And just what they're trying to make the parents a felon for giving the kids medical care. So like taking them, letting him dress the way he wants, all that kind of stuff, and just they were so angry. And the father, like in his last testimony, he was like shaking, angry that they like, "This is ridiculous. Y'all made me drive out here, take the day off work in a snowstorm at midnight, and trying to make me a felon for taking care of my kid."
To get him the medical attention he
it's
needed.
evil, and it is like what he was saying or whatever. And it was like it's surreal that was real life like that. I don't know how the Republican legislators sat through that and didn't like start thinking, "Are we the baddies? Like what? This is not good," you know?
Well, a lot of people in general, once you have kind of your viewpoint set up, especially when you come from a viewpoint that has a lot of programming to it, you're not very receptible to hearing other stuff unless it directly impacts you.
Yeah, but they are hearing it though.
Hearing and listening are two different things.
But they had to sit there for 12 hours and just listen to all of these people cry about how it's going to ruin their lives. And that's not a thing they normally have to do. You know, normally politicians is just like procedural stuff and like tax things, and maybe you'll have one witness come in and give an emotional testimony and you move through it, you know? But this was like nonstop people just talking about how horrible this was and how it was going to ruin their lives and how it was going to make them leave the state. The mayor of Kansas City showed up to talk against it. He was like, this kind of small-minded stuff will drive revenue away from the state and away from the city. And they brought FIFA put the World Cup in Kansas City in 2026, and they were pretty proud of that. And they said the reason we got the bid over Nashville, one of the biggest reasons, was trans health stuff, because in Tennessee they've banned trans health for the kids under age 18, and they want to keep things open that way, and that the small mindedness and bigotry will keep us poor. It'll like run money out of the state. And tough.
So there's capitalism inside of transsexualism.
There's capitalism everywhere.
We love
Everything
it.
is capitalism. You are capitalism.
Oh, I definitely am capitalism. Well, thank you so much, Stacy. We are going to wrap up our episode.
Thanks for having me on the show. This was great.
You're so welcome. Before we finish, I want you to promote literally every fucking thing that you do.
Oh,
Where can they find you?
Okay. I mean, my name's Stacy Cay, and that's Stacy. Whatever. I don't want to spell it. I run a show called Spend the Night Comedy. I'm a comedian. I'm usually funnier than this, and the show is it's like slumber party themed. So a lot of times we wear lingerie, which is pretty fun.
I don't know y'all like that.
We stream all the shows. We do cover it's
covered. It's not that.
it's not that. It's not actually a burlesque show. Though we do have burlesque dancers on it occasionally. So I do a lot of that, and you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, things like that. Keep in touch. I'm also a model. If you want to hire me, I guess. You can see some of my work on Instagram and things like that, and I'll also Instagram and things like that. That's it. Oh, this outfit here. I guess this is Lloyd Samuel Fashion, and it's like a trans designer, which is pretty cool. So they gave this to me and told me to wear it, and it feels pretty nice. So
thank you. You look beautiful.
Thanks.
Thank you. Beautiful.
What else? Thanks.
You're welcome.
Eat your vegetables. Very important.
Back
Drink
up.
your milk.